Chapter 18.
What's the right choice, then? Draco asked, holding his breath, awaiting the reply. Hard to say, she responded. I suppose it's up to each person to decide. Typically, leaving Transfiguration class led Draco straight to the library, but today he stood uncertain, wavering between the library and the dungeons. Eventually, his feet carried him to the Charms classroom, drawn for reasons even he didn't quite fathom. It wasn't until he saw the rush of students wearing red and gold scarves that he realized the reason. Gryffindor had charms this period as well. Unclear whether it was Potter, Granger, or perhaps another person his subconscious awaited, both Potter and Granger soon approached. Draco moved towards them, his mind blank of any dialogue, when he unintentionally overheard Weasley's comments to Potter, uttered rather loudly. It's clear why no one can stand her, Draco caught Weasley saying. Honestly, she's such a headache. It wasn't until Granger bumped into Potter, brushed by them, and vanished down the corridor with tears streaming her previously dry face, did Draco understand that Weasley must have been referring to her. Clearly, she had heard him, and heard Potter stay silent. Think she caught that? Potter muttered guiltily. So, what if she did? Weasley replied, looking a bit unwell. She must know, she doesn't have any real friends. What? Draco shot back, stepping right into their path. Has scrambled your brains, you idiot, blockhead, pitiful imitation of a Gryffindor? Caught off guard, Potter and Weasley exchanged sheepish looks before turning back to Draco with weak attempts at defiance. You overheard, Malfoy? And know Hermione did too? I didn't mean for her to hear. Oh, I was addressing Potter, Draco hissed. I haven't even begun with you. Unable to endure their astounded, empty gazes, Draco forcefully gripped both by the arms, dragging them into a deserted trophy room further down the hall, infamous site of his backfired duel with Potter. When he wordlessly lit the floating candles with his wand, it was not to flaunt his magical prowess, but it inadvertently made Potter and Weasley edge closer nervously. First years were easily impressed by trivialities like that, accomplished by most seventh years with ease. Shutting the door sharply with a booming ventus perhaps did have an element of intimidation. We've classes to attend, Potter mentioned nervously, while Weasley added. Why are you losing it so hard, Malfoy? I didn't mean Hermione to hear, didn't want her upset, it was accidental. A dual punch, that's one thing. Sure, I hexed you first, whatever. But what crime has she committed? Being overly assertive? A know-it-all? Besting you in class. The guilt in their eyes spoke volumes. And that's all? So that gives you the right to be heartless. Since when is teaching us about compassion your role? You, Malfoy? The supposed dark wizard. Weasley defended weakly, arms crossed. Yes. Precisely. I'm a Malfoy. But you're not. You're supposed to be above this. How could you stoop to cruelty? Draco articulated, almost losing track of his own argument. You're supposed to be better. Why? Potter questioned defiantly, those striking green eyes guarded. Because we're Gryffindors? Held to a higher code. Because you're Harry Potter, Draco shouted, losing control of his magic as the candles soared. And Weasley, you're his closest ally, aren't you? Chosen by Harry himself. His disappointment was primarily aimed at Potter. You're Harry Potter. You repeat that constantly, Malfoy, Potter countered, his jaw tight with suppressed emotion. Like it holds some significance. Of course it does. Draco pressed closer, desperate for recognition. It matters, Potter, that you exist. You're the boy who lived, symbolizing hope, a beacon for the right path. Even under tremendous expectations for a mere first year, it's fate's design, like it or not. Potter, you ought to be the beacon of kindness, justice, not judgment. That's your defining trait. It distinguishes you from my father, a Death Eater, who looks down on Hermione. You shouldn't emulate him in any way. At Draco's impassioned plea, Weasley gawked incredulously, while something shifted in Potter's expression behind his circular glasses, not full understanding, but at least an acknowledgement of Draco's conviction. "You must really care about your girlfriend," Weasley snarked. "Standing up for her like this must mean you fancy her," evoking a fierce rebuttal from Draco. "I'm gay, you blockhead. Ask me if you want clarity, but don't assume that's why the better man today is a Slytherin. I don't have feelings for her. She's not even my friend, more an academic collaborator, but I've seen enough to know she surpasses both of you. Chosen one. She excels, and if that irks you, it's because you lack the cleverness to rub two coins together. But it doesn't justify your behavior towards her. Forget it." Exiting the trophy room like a storm, Draco reveled in the self-satisfaction, his robes flaring in genuine Snape-like fashion. Such spite propelled his steps, but walk away he did, celebrating his restraint. Reflecting, late to charms, Draco wondered if he'd mismanaged his frustration over McGonagall's words onto them. He skipped dinner, citing the memory of the troll encounter on Halloween, confirmed via his notebook, as an excuse. Instead, he visited the kitchens post-class and sweet-talked the elves into providing some early festive treats. The absence of news about Dobby added to his melancholic mood, yet the elves were coaxed from reluctance into filling a personal bag with far more than he initially sought. Using a featherlight spell to carry it, he retreated to his dorm's draped sanctuary with provisions, study materials, wand, and a moogie beside his pillow, part cerebration on Professor McGonagall's revelations, part desire to halt thoughts altogether. Draco had obliterated Harry Potter's victory. No enduring peace in a world freed from the Dark Lord. Draco had eliminated that universe. Thus, an uncharted future lay before him. In theoretical temporal manipulation, one might leave history untouched, no matter the effort. But here, tangible changes were irreversible. And memories, those were irrevocably altered. Draco should have put the pieces together when Granger started joining him at his table, when Longbottom's cauldron stayed intact, when he ordered Dobby to go against his father's commands, and when he held Aunt Bella's wand. Those moments illustrated how his memories could be twisted and the extent of the power he'd been given. He wasn't confident in making even the simplest decisions, yet suddenly the universe seemed to hand him all of them, leaving him feeling as though he might as well have been powerless. That miserable month spent at Malfoy Manor had its worth, tedious as it had appeared at the time, serving the essential purpose of recording every memory he had of the first time around while they were still fresh. Despite his initial hope that the notebooks would prove unnecessary, he realized he needed every single one. It was all going to play out again, and he had to decide whether to passively watch or take action. He'd been attempting the former, or so he thought, but reliving events exactly as they were meant Vince and Severus would die, his father would land in Azkaban, temporary and ultimately for life. It meant taking the Dark Mark, the mission to eliminate Dumbledore, Potter's curse in Myrtle's bathroom, Death Eaters storming Hogwarts, Severus killing Dumbledore, Voldemort residing at the manor, torturing prisoners, Lovegood and Ollivander and Potter's trio captives again, Aunt Bella tormenting Granger. And Aunt Bella would want her wand back. That confrontation was inevitable now. Thankfully, he had cast the Muffliato charm because he hadn't experienced such a breakdown since the day he saw Vince on the Hogwarts Express. Gasping for air and attempting to halt his tears, being this profoundly alone stretched on for what felt like eternity until he succumbed to sleep. It provided a temporary reprieve from his thoughts. Upon emerging the next morning, the other Slytherin boys greeted him rather coldly, though his hair was growing long enough to obscure any puffiness around his eyes. After Vince regaled Draco with the tale of a troll attack and Draco feigned surprise wearily, the tension among the other boys intensified. Blaise was the first to voice frustration about Draco's absence, recounting their return to the dormitory and their realization that Draco wasn't with them. Theo sounded more hurt than curious, detailing their failed attempts to open Draco's curtains to check on him, assuming instead Draco had magically barricaded himself inside rather than alerting Severus of Draco's absence during the chaos. "Why didn't you?" Draco drawled, feeling irrationally impatient and irked once more by others getting agitated, similar to the Gryffindors' outrage over possibly getting Potter expelled. Their panic seemed absurd, given that he knew how things would unfold, but they lacked his perspective. Perhaps some of his old friends even had genuine concern for him. The others exchanged uneasy glances. "Do you always block yourself off like that, Draco?" Blaise eventually asked. "What's happening in there?" "Reading, jotting notes, cuddling a plush dragon. Sometimes experimenting with transfiguration, suffering respiratory distress, or indulging in his own pleasures." "And why is that any of your business, Zabini?" "Seriously, Draco, what's going on?" Theo pressed on. "Oh, just dabbling in dark arts," Draco quipped, but his sarcasm didn't draw a single chuckle. Vince and Greg shared a nervous glance. Draco wasn't even at dinner the whole time. Like he knew about the troll beforehand, Vince whispered badly to Greg. Maybe he's the one who let the troll into the dungeons. At first, Draco assumed they were joking, but none of them cracked a smile. "Really, Vince? Come on," he remarked, annoyed they weren't teasing. "Of course, you've uncovered my scheme. I'm a Malfoy, after all. Renowned Dark Lord of Trolls." Yet no laughter followed. "Honestly? You don't genuinely think it would be ridiculous? The troll nearly harmed Granger, and I need her help for my future as an unspeakable. If I aim to cause chaos at Hogwarts, do you think I'd be so clumsy?" However, instead of the understanding and apologies Draco's sound logic demanded, the air grew even more strained, in a dormitory that now felt confined with all 5 of them. Could something worse have happened to Granger than he remembered? Damn it all. He didn't need his notebook to recall Halloween's events. Potter, Weasley, and Granger managed to overcome the troll in the girls' bathroom, earning points for Gryffindor despite reckless stupidity. Yet, if Granger had retreated, perhaps to the bathroom rather than Gryffindor Tower as Draco had foolishly assumed, and Potter and Weasley, estranged by Draco, hadn't rushed to her aid, he hadn't considered he could have already. Granger could possibly be. "Draco," Theo spoke deliberately, "if you were inside your bed all night, how did you know that the Gryffindors faced the troll?" The cold realization of his slip was surpassed only by the relief at the sound of Gryffindors, plural. "So they're all okay?" Draco inquired with feigned disinterest, containing his relief at Vince's nod. Nonetheless, for piercing gazes grew more suspicious. "Well, that's because I could watch everything through the eyes of my troll," Draco deadpanned, yet none laughed this time. He used to send these individuals into fits of laughter with a simple gesture. Was he truly unfunny now? Or perhaps they feared him. That might turn out useful. Joining his group of intimidated pureblood boys in the Great Hall, he noticed Granger not isolated from her fellow Gryffindor first years, but flanked by Potter and Weasley, animatedly chatting in their own bubble. Once, it was an unremarkable sight, a regular annoyance, but now it instilled a strange spite in Draco as he sat down, maintaining his own distance from his peers. He had wanted to be an outsider, should have been relieved Granger was no longer isolated, that she assumed her rightful role by Potter's side, protecting him. Pleased, she claimed the place next to Potter, a spot Draco could never occupy. Yet, there he was, feeling like an 11-year-old again, peering at Potter from afar, almost choking on breakfast out of an unrealized, bitter envy. Once, he had begrudged Potter for the attention, as Gryffindors enthusiastically congratulated them while rumors of Harry Potter's newest heroic feat spread across all 4 tables, taking on a 12-foot-tall mountain troll before he even turned 12. Draco remembered previously dismissing it to Vince and Greg as unimpressive, claiming he could have done it solo, and better. But the renown wasn't what ached now. It was witnessing the trio bonded by their perilous adventure, a seamless blend of friendship that Draco's influence had ignorantly fragmented. Draco had thought he could endure, drift into anonymity, become a shadow, purposefully distancing himself. All because he believed Severus would send him back to 1998 in mere days. This was forever, without even Slytherins as company with fake flattery. Are you all right, Draco? Theo's quiet inquiry came out of nowhere. Though a tinge of thankfulness lingered within Draco, masked by the confident demeanor he adopted, he curled his lips into a smirk and said with a lazy tone, I was merely curious about how these dreadful teachers have managed my troll.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!